So I was really waiting to do this, and it's such an honor to be even sitting next to you, such a legend you are. And but because I want to put a video here, that's why. So I put some gap here. Maybe I'll start with the first question, which is the obvious choice, the legacy and origin. What core value from your family's early legacy do you believe has most profoundly shaped the family's century-old journey?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this fireside chat. I was highly influenced by my grandfather. In fact, much of what I've learned of life has come from him. His values, his ethics, his integrity, that was passed down generation to generation. And I firmly believe that it was one of the cornerstones of his success. And he always said that, in life, you are going to make money and sometimes you're going to lose money. Never lose your ethics and your integrity. So this is something which was ingrained in me, and I completely followed it. Many of us in family businesses make statements that we follow ethics and we follow good practices. But the essence of and the test of your being able to do this is when you are faced with hard times. And when you have limited choices, and do you take the right course of action or not? I recall in the 70s when Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and my grandfather had, of course, passed away at that time. When she was the Prime Minister, she had increased the income tax rates to 98%. Over and above that, there was a wealth tax. So the effective tax on business families was 101 or 102%. We actually, in our family, decided we will sell our assets, we will sell our shares in order to pay the tax. I can say with pride that we were one of the few families in the country who actually did this, because it was highly unfair of what the government did. And there were many family businesses who said, this is not fair, we are not going to follow this. But in our case, because it was so deeply ingrained in us, we said, whatever happens, we are going to pay our tax and sleep comfortably at night. So this was one of my grandfather's great teachings to us.
So you don't engage a consultant to do tax savings or anything like that? That's the quite a natural step.
I wouldn't dare talk to any family and say, sell your assets to pay tax. It's a very personal thing.
It's really cool. Next, I would like to talk about leadership transition. We did an event in Ahmedabad last week, and there was this very interesting thing that was said by SRK, the Dulakia family. I want to play that as a video here so that it's very interesting to hear from him. Can we play that clip, please?
So as a Bollywood movie, you don't see that because we're all from a family businesses, and a Bollywood film show ke father is sitting one day and his son appears and says, "Achhe chabi sambhalo, dhanda aapka, main ja raha hu." It does not happen in our family businesses. This is more to do with how it is passed on. It is generational wealth that is being transitioned. Plus, it is not only business that the keys that you have to pass on. It is more of the families that are attached to us, the stakeholders, the thousands of people who are working and dependent on the company.
So what are your thoughts on that? What is the sort of...
I couldn't completely hear it. Give me an essence
So
of
basically what he said is, very often people say when an inheritance is given over to the next generation, it's like a Bollywood movie wherein they give you a key and say, no, Aaj se business is yours, right? Sorry, apologies for my bad Hindi. But it's not like that in the truest sense. It's a lot of work and planning and everything. So how has that been for you in your family, the transition of control and wealth and so on?
Okay, so let me say, and I think this is a lesson for business families. There are always going to be ups and downs in life, and especially in business families. Everything is not hunky-dory in life. In our family, which goes back to 1889, which is now more than 130 years, and I am fourth generation, my sons are now fifth generation. We went through very difficult times in the 80s, to the extent that there was so much dissonance in the family that the family decided to break up. And this happens in many families. And I think as Gaurav was talking, third generation, and then you start looking at the fourth generation where things are starting to go bad. So we had a family separation in 1889. And again, between my three brothers who had our part of the business, we had further dissonance. And in 1999, we decided to separate. So I became, in a sense, a first-generation businessman, from fourth generation to first generation. And I said, what is it that I have learned from these experiences? And my learning was, never take anything for granted, always prepare for the future. And we, at that point of time, my daughter-in-laws are here, we actually wrote our family constitution. And that family constitution was written with them also being available and present there. And they were participants in the writing of the constitution. So our constitution was written in such a way that it was not a completely kind of a what should I say? It wasn't a closed kind of a loop, but it was a guidance to the family members as to how we should proceed in the future. And I think part of that was also succession. And one of the things that we learned was that every generation will not want to be participating in the family business. So let's leave it to our children, now my grandchildren, to decide whether they want to join the business or not want to join the business. If they want to do something else, they want to become artists, they want to become musicians, they want to become entrepreneurs on their own, it's their choice. So this was a great learning for us. And we have followed this so far, and it has been much better sailing than what I experienced in my early 30, 40 years of life.
No, I want to go one round deeper because there's so many entrepreneurs here, and some of them are next-gen transition, all scenarios going on. Let's say if somebody wants to become an artist and was not interested in the family business, how does that work? How do you carve that transition out?
If they want to?
Be an artist, they want to be a musician. Or
So what we decided was that if somebody wants to become an artist, he will be only supported by the family to the extent that he gets a fair dividend from the business.
dividend, okay.
He does not participate in the business. He does not get any emoluments from the business, he or she. But they get the equal share of dividend, and that should be enough for them to live a comfortable life, plus whatever they make of their lives as an artist.
Okay. How about innovation? How have your family stayed as, and your enterprises that you've led, and now that you've said you're a first generation business entrepreneur, and how have you stayed innovative all through these years?
Again, can you...
How have you stayed innovative all through these years?
How do we stay innovative? Well, I think we realized in the mid-90s, after the liberalization started, that the world has changed for all of us. Whether you're in private business, you're in a family business, wherever you are, the life has changed for all of us. And unless you keep up to be competitive and to innovate in the future, you're not going to be, you might be able to survive just about, but you're not going to be able to grow. So we were one of the earliest companies in the country to have adopted TQM as a way of managing our businesses.
You mean total quality management, right?
Total quality management. Some people call it Six Sigma in the United States. In Japan, it is TQM. We followed TQM and we adopted it. We spent 10 years just to learn and implement it in our company. Today, it is used everywhere in our company. We have 4 distinct businesses. It's used everywhere in our company. Now, that was just the beginning. And then from there, the offshoot was that in order to be competitive in today's world, we have to be innovative. And we have to keep innovating new products, new ideas, new thoughts. So I'm no longer in the business. I retired when I was 67 years old. I'm 85. So that's many, many years ago. And I advise all the older people here to retire at the right time. Give your progeny...
It's a lot of clap.
Enjoy life in other spheres, but hand over to your children if they want to be in the business. If they don't want to be in the business, I'd say sell out and give them the money. But you don't have to die with your boots on. So this is one learning I have. By the way, my grandfather, who was not highly, he was just school educated, also retired at the age of about 65. So I think this was a lesson which we learned in our family quite early. So I think, and I'm hearing noises from my sons that they want to retire at the age of 60. I said 60 is a bit early. But I think it's good to think in terms of how you're going to have a succession. And coming back to innovation, I strongly believe that we are not... See, Trump has started this tariff war. This is not going to go away. Maybe Trump will moderate his stance and there will be some more logic used about how they're going to deal with each country. But there is going to be in every country some degree of internalization. We are talking about Atmanirbharta. So this is going to be something that is going to happen in future. The only way that we can compete, only way that we can go ahead of others is through innovation. So it is innovation in products, it is innovation in technologies, it is innovation in science, whatever field you are in. Innovation is going to be the name of the game.
And how important is it for the family businesses to come together in a forum, exchange learnings? Do you see that happen quite often in India?
Yes, I do see that happening. Let me share with you that I was, again, because I was president of CII, we did start a CII chapter in collaboration with Family Business International, which is based out of Geneva, to learn about family businesses in Europe and America, how they had managed themselves, because there are family businesses who have been around for 10, 15, 20 generations in Europe and America. America, not so much as in Europe. And so there are a lot of learnings that we thought we can get from there. So we did get some of the professors to come and speak to Indian families. And the first one that I attended was somewhere in, I think, 98 or 99. And this was a marvelous professor from Northwestern University, Professor John Ward. And one of you might be knowing him, you might have interacted with him. He was one of the earliest to have talked about family businesses. And he proved in his research that family businesses in the same area of business as so-called professional businesses outperform them by 20% on an average. So there is something to family businesses which is magic, which does not exist in so-called professional run businesses. We are a listed company, we have 60,000 shareholders. But we still do not issue any guidance. Quarterly guidance or yearly guidance, we do not issue it. We say either you trust us or don't be a part of us. But our philosophy has always been that we will do the best for the shareholders. Whatever it is, the shareholders, whether we are the shareholders or the public shareholders, we have to create wealth for them. So we will do our best to make sure that every shareholder gets his due.
This is one important question. I think it's very important that we asked here in this platform. M&A, right? Family business means a lot of connections, bonding with your team members who've been there for decades. And now someone gets acquired, that's the change in management, some people will be asked to go, realignment of roles, whole thing of dynamics can happen in a business, right? So how have you managed this cultural sort of part in the M&A or mergers and acquisitions that you've witnessed throughout your journey?
Let me start on a little lighter note because it's history now. Nikhil's grandfather, Mr. H.P. Nanda. Is Nikhil still here? Okay, he is gone. So Nikhil's grandfather, Mr. H.P. Nanda, my father, Dr. Bharat Ram, were faced with a situation in early 80s that the first hostile takeover was taking place in India. And our two companies were the ones that were targeted by an NRI who had unlimited funds. In India, we could not go to a bank and borrow funds to do a takeover of some other company. You had to be in the good graces of the government to even think of doing something like that. But we had never heard of a hostile takeover in India. So we were the first two companies in the country that were faced with a hostile takeover. Fortunately, both our families managed to cross that bridge and survived and grew after that. But coming to M&As, this is a very philosophically personal decision that families have to make. Do you want to get into a merger with some other company, maybe a foreign company? Do you want to get into a partnership where you get technology from them and become a supplier to them? Do you want to take over companies abroad? One of the things I personally believe is that it is very difficult, especially if you're doing a takeover of a company abroad, is how do you have a cultural fit? It's very, very difficult to imagine how your company and a company abroad would have a cultural fit. So it's very important to think these things through. Barclays will come and give us a very good offer of, Adrish, I'm not pointing directly at you because you're private, you are only taking care of the private side. But some banker will come and say that, we have a very good deal, we will finance you, go ahead and buy them. So it's not just buying a company, it is how will you actually interact with the people there and how will you manage to integrate. On the other hand, we have found going international with your own equity and your own investments is a good way to do it. We have now businesses in 4 different countries. And these are all funded by us, our own technologies, and they're all successful. So that is a easier model that we believe that we have followed.
So what is that one last piece of advice that you would like to give to the room before we wind up?
Since I'm an old man, and I have my children say, now you only have wisdom, you don't have any energy left. So let me say, if I can share some wisdom with you, is that, look, next generation, the generation after that, are going to be very different from you, as Gaurav also mentioned. We are not going to be the same. And it is important to understand their nature. It is important to not force your ideas on them. I mean, look, the old time, in fact, I suffered through that also. I finished school in the late 50s, and the first thing my family said, we don't have an engineer in our family, you have to become an engineer. I had no interest in engineering. But my grandfather, my father, everybody said, we have no engineer in the family. As though I was going to be an engineer turning the screws and maintaining the machines or something like that. But no, we don't have an engineer. So I was miserable doing engineering. And I rebelled after 3-4 years, and I changed my subject and I did something else. So I would say that in this generation and future generations, you have to be much more sensitive about what your children want to do, how you're going to bring them up. And bringing up children today is very different from what it used to be in our times and my forefathers' times. So you have to be much, much more sensitive to what your children and your grandchildren will require of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's lovely hearing you. Thank you.